For this video, we are going to do our last transpositional cipher, which is called the Columnar Transposition cipher. We're going to follow the same format as we did the last video. We're going to describe what the cipher is. We're going to do a sample encryption. Then we're going to do a sample decryption. So a columnar transposition cipher is very similar to our root cipher. We start off by putting the plain text into a grid, and we're going to put it into the grid exactly as we did before, doing one row at a time, left to right, starting with the top row, working our way down. And if we have empty entries at the end, we're going to use null characters to fill those in. Instead of following our root, what we're going to do is going to read the ciphertext off the columns, but we're going to scramble the order of the columns. And then we're going to read the ciphertext from each column in scrambled order to find the encrypted form of the text. So the key that's going to help us do all that, turns out all we need is a word. And that word is going to do two things for us. First of all, it's going to determine what the size of the grid is, that and the message. Specifically, it's going to tell us how many columns we have. And the letters in the word are going to tell us what order that we're going to scramble the columns. So here's the instructions we're going to use for the cipher once we have that keyword. First, we're going to make a grid where the length of the rows, and the same way of saying the length of the rows is the number of columns, is the length of the keyword. Then we're going to put the plain text into the grid as we did in the root cipher, starting at the upper left, doing one row at a time and working our way down, and we use just as many rows as we need to fill in the words from our plain text. Any empty entries at the end, we're going to fill in with null characters, just like we did before. And then we're going to pay close attention to the alphabetical order of the letters in the keyword. Remember, each of those letters in the keyword represents a column in our grid. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at those in alphabetical order, the columns, and then we're going to take the ciphertext from those columns in that order. All right, so let's look at that in an example just to see how this is going to work. So our keyword is handy, and what that tells us is that we have 5 letters in our keyword. That means we're going to have 5 columns in our grid. Our plain text is going to be, "This is my private life." And so what we're going to do is we're going to have 5 columns, and we're going to keep filling in the words, "This is my private life," until we fill in all of them. That's going to take 4 rows. And then notice we have one empty entry at the end. We'll fill that in with a random letter. I'm going to fill it in with an X. So remember, each of those columns is represented by a letter in the keyword handy. And we're going to look at the word handy in alphabetical order, those letters. So the alphabetical order of the letters are A, D, H, N, and Y. And that's the order that we're going to take the ciphertext from the columns. So for our ciphertext, we're first going to look at, well, the first one in alphabetical order is A. That's the second column. So we're going to look at the letters in the second column. That's the italicized ones I put there. And we can see the first 4 letters of our ciphertext are going to be H, M, V, I. The next one in alphabetical order after A is D. That's the 4th column. And you can see that the letters in that column are S, P, T, E. Those are the next 4 letters in our ciphertext. After D in handy becomes H. H is our first column. The letters in that one are T, S, I, and L. After H comes N. That's our 3rd column. The letters in that one are I, Y, A, and F. And then our last one is Y, which is the last column. And that's I, R, E, X. Then we smash those together, and that's our ciphertext. Now, for decryption, we're going to use a different keyword, different different plain text, just so we can see what the decryption looks like with fresh eyes. So our keyword is going to be Cretan. Pay very close attention. Cretan has 6 letters. Our ciphertext is, well, that. And the first thing we're going to have to figure out is, okay, how many rows and columns are in our grid? Well, we know how many columns are in the grid. Cretan has 6 letters. In order to figure out how many rows, well, let's see. We have 18 letters in our ciphertext. 18 letters, 6 columns. And so how many rows are going to give us 18 letters? Well, 6 times 3 is 18. That means we're going to have 3 rows. So this is what our grid's going to look like. I'm putting the letters of the keyword above those entries in the grid, just so we can figure out which order that we're going to do the columns. Now remember, when we did our ciphertext, we took them from the columns in alphabetical order. So we're going to look through Cretan in alphabetical order, and then we're going to fill in those columns one at a time. And notice that each of those columns has 3 letters in it. So we're going to be taking 3 letters of ciphertext at a time. Okay, so in alphabetical order, the first letter in alphabetical order for Cretan is C. That is the first column. So the first 3 letters, that's CTO, are going to be in that first column. So CTO in that first column. The next 3 letters, MEH, are going to be in the second one in alphabetical order, and after C, that's going to be E, so that's the third column, so that's MEH. After E in alphabetical order comes I, that is the 5th row, and that's going to be the next 3 letters, G, U, and R. After I, we have N, and that is the last row. The next 3 letters are E, T, and E. And after N, we have R in Cretan, so that is going to be the second column. The next 3 letters are O, M, and F. And then our last column is T, and those 3 letters are going to be E, O, and E. And then we read our plain text left to right, top to bottom, 1 row at a time. So when we do that, we get our plain text being, well, all those letters together. And if we split those into individual words, it's come get me out of here. So that gives you an idea about how to encrypt and decrypt using the transpositional cipher. And now I think you're ready for the columnar transposition cipher on the PDF file that is included with this video.